Hey everyone, I'm Magenta Braumberger and I am your host for this episode of the Langara Voice Podcast. So if you're like me, you might have been feeling like spring was never going to come, but it is finally on its way, I think, fingers crossed. And I think for a lot of us, when you think of spring, you think of spring gardening. So if you were hoping to dip your toe into the gardening world this spring, you might be interested in today's episode because we're exploring the world of community gardens. And if you're interested in gardening, but you don't have a yard or a space to do it where you live, community gardening actually could be perfect for you. A community garden is a space where people from a neighborhood or a community will come together. The land is usually divided up into individual plots. People come together to grow food on their plot of land, and then when they get the harvest from that food, they can share it, they can donate it, or they can eat it themselves. Meg Holden is the director of Simon Fraser University's Center for Sustainable Development, and she's going to tell us a bit more about the importance of community gardens and the role that they can play on campus.
We just started a community garden on SFU campus, which has been, it was my colleague Tamara Soma who really started a learning garden a few years ago. And it's a challenge, right? Because we're not always there. Students aren't always there. Faculty aren't always there to take care of it, especially in the summer months. But it's really important because then not only are you making food available, which is obviously important for nutrition, you're also encouraging students to connect growing food to higher learning, which is something that has been sort of programmed out of us for a long time. That's it's a down low priority. It's like lower on the hierarchy of needs. And this, if you're in a place of higher learning, then you should be beyond that. Well, that's silly. That's not true. So the ability to connect those spaces to learning spaces is important. And then also that sense of like confidence and comfort with your food system. So figuring out, I've seen undergraduate students like just thrilled to get their hands into a big barrel of, potatoes and see like how many potatoes can fit in a square or in a cubic meter of soil, even in a potted garden. And it's thrilling to be able to go from seed all the way to a delicious meal at the end.
Community gardens have actually taken on even greater importance in Vancouver in recent years. They form a key part of the city's food policy. I was able to speak with Henry Lau, who is a social planner at the City of Vancouver, on the topic.
Community gardens have been in the city of Vancouver for a very long time. I've only been at the city for almost 2 years now, but I know the history goes back quite a while. There's over 110 community gardens in the city right now, and the city plays a really important role in enabling these gardens, because, as you may know, there's very limited land available for gardening. So the City of Vancouver and the Vancouver Park Board support community gardens through the provision of land. It's interesting you're emailing me about this angle because when I went to UBC, I actually helped create the rooftop garden at the Nest.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Roots on the Roof. So it's a community garden model for a student in a school setting. I think it's a really cool opportunity because you have some people coming in with a lot of growing experience and some people coming in with not very much, which is kind of where all of us started. And I started in high school and I had zero experience. Like tomato plant, I misheard instructions one day and I was pulling all the flowers off the plant, but that's where the tomatoes come from. But you learn. And I think the really cool aspect of garden at schools is like there's a lot of experimental learning that's really hands-on. And also the dialogue that happens as well.
So if all of this is interesting to you, Langara College students are in luck because the grounds are home to multiple gardens, and Mario Moniz de Sa is the Langara instructor behind most of the gardens on campus. Mario is a biology instructor at Langara, and over the last 13 years, he's created the community garden, indigenous garden, and pollinator garden, just to name a few. And to top it off, he has actually incorporated elements of gardening into some of his classes. So I was really happy to have the chance to sit down with Mario, and you'll hear more of that conversation now. Just to start, maybe a bit of a lay of the land, because it sounds like it started with the community garden. and that was back in 2011.
I have been doing things on my own, like what we call at Langara, on the side of your desk,
Yeah.
for a long time. So the first thing I did was help create a community garden. Like I said, it wasn't my idea, but I'm the one who was not good with the ideas. I'm good with just the doing, right? I'm a doer.
Right.
And so I applied for a new proposal. I gave several suggestions, and in 2011, it went through, and now it's been operating ever since. And then from there, I thought, you know what, this adjacent area, you know, why people should have to cut the grass? It's just attracting dogs and their poo.
Yeah.
So I said I created an adjacent woodland community garden because I hired an indigenous student, and I tried to make him plant more indigenous stuff. We kind of passed that on as an indigenous garden. But ever since then, I've kind of have a track record, and facilities at Langara has decided that if there's an area of grass that is not used for anything, and it just takes a lot of effort to cut and maintain, I've been pretty much given carte blanche to do whatever it is. So I just take a shovel, upturn, and plant flowers.
And you don't actually need to have any sort of gardening experience if you are interested in getting involved. So if you want to learn more about the on-campus gardens or potentially get involved with some of the planting, you can join Langara's Biology Club. So they help with a lot of the actual planting for Langara's campus gardens. And you can also reach out to the Langara Community Garden by email to inquire about securing your own plot. And that's everything from me today. So I hope that you learned a little bit more about community gardens and all the benefits that they can bring you. I am Magenta Braumberger with the Langara Voice.